Kia ora, and welcome to Thursday's Economy Watch, where we follow the economic events and trends that affect New Zealand. I'm David Chaston, and this is the international edition from interest.co.nz, and today we lead with news. The US yield curve has steepened overnight on messy talk about the US Fed's independence and arbitrary US tariff statements. In more direct economic news, US mortgage applications fell sharply last week, even after adjusting for the holiday weekend. They were 10% lower than the prior week, but they're still 18% higher than a year ago. But to be fair, year-ago levels were unusually low. Rising interest rates are getting the blame for the recent fall-off in activity. And American producer prices rose 2.3% in June, which was much less than the May 2.7% rise and less than the expected 2.5% rise. A rather large and unusual monthly drop in logistics costs kept the overall index restrained. Meanwhile, US industrial production inched higher, up 0.7% in June from a year ago. It was driven by a good rise in business equipment and mining, but that masked a fall in the much larger sector, manufacturing consumer goods. But to give better context, neither of those year-on-year gains showed up in June. And that flat recent trend is showing up in the Fed's July Beige Book surveys. Economic activity increased slightly from late May through to early July. 5 districts reported slight or modest gains, 5 had flat activity, and the remaining 2 districts noted modest declines in activity. There was nothing here indicating rising consumer or business sentiment and impending investment, pointedly quite the opposite. Across the border, Canadian housing starts in June stayed high, and certainly higher than expected. They were expected to retreat somewhat after a strong May, but remained at those elevated levels. And staying in Canada, they have released data that shows the gap between the top earners and the bottom earners has reached a record divide. The bottom 40% of households now have less than 3% of all household wealth. The top 10% have almost half. It is a twist that foreshadows future social stresses there. And later today we'll get Japanese trade data for June, and that is expected to be positive. And as expected, the Indonesian central bank cut its policy rate yesterday by 25 basis points to 5.25%. They said the tariff rate deal with the US will be positive for them. And also later today, we'll be watching the June labour market report for Australia. Another good jobs gain is expected, another 20,000, skewed sharply towards full-time positions. And we'll get an update to Australian inflation expectations. The US Treasury 10-year yield is now at 4.46% and down 3 basis points from yesterday at this time. And the price of gold will start today at $3,354 an ounce, up $27 from yesterday. American oil prices are little changed at $66.50 a barrel, while the international Brent price is still just on $68.50 a barrel. And the Kiwi dollar is now at 59.5 US cents, up 10 basis points from yesterday. Against the Aussie, we're down 20 basis points at 91.1 Australian cents. Against the euro, we're also down 20 basis points to 51.1 euro cents. That all means our trade-weighted index starts today at just on 67.2 and down 20 basis points. And the Bitcoin price starts today at $119,039 and up 1.4% from yesterday. And that takes it back to 200,000 New Zealand dollars. Volatility of the past 24 hours has been modest at just on plus or minus 1.5%. You can get more news affecting the economy in New Zealand from interest.co.nz. Kia ora, I'm David Chaston, and we'll do this again tomorrow.